Radical Radio Collective.
Good afternoon, listeners. You're tuned into 4ZZZ 102.1 FM. This is Eco Radio, Australia's longest running peace and environment radio show. Maybe. We say it enough and it becomes true. We're taking over your middle of the day, middle of the week, start of the month airwaves. My name is Dave, my pronouns are he, him.
My name is Zack and my pronouns are he, they.
And I want to start off by acknowledging and paying my respects to the custodians on the country in which we broadcast. We're located in the city of Meanjin on Turrbal Yoga and Yugambeh land. I also want to acknowledge and pay my respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are listening in today. Our radio waves reach Cubby Cubby and Yinambara country in the north, Waka Waka country in the west. In the east, we pay our respects to the Quandamooka people, and down south we reach the Commonwealth, the Garrigwal, Mununjali, Wanjerabara, Yugambeh and Bunjalung countries. Thank you to No Idea for all the great ideas. I really enjoyed the discussion about the new technology for fish hooks for sharks. I think that's a really ingenious way of preventing sharks from being bycatch. In a different lifetime, I worked on a longliner and hooked shark, it's a terrible thing. We actually cut the shark open and pups fell out and were alive enough to bite the boot of one of the other deckhands.
Yeah, some sharks have an interesting thing where essentially, their pups are alive inside their womb. I think that's mostly the sand sharks, if I'm correct there. But there's like generally either you lay eggs or you give live birth. This is like a mix between the two almost.
Yeah, right.
Where they're living inside the womb and sometimes they eat each other. It's interesting.
Wow. Yeah. So any technology or new thing that can stop sharks being caught, I'm all for. Today on the show, however, we're going to be talking to Rebecca Appleton, who works as an educator and rescuer with Bat Conservation and Rescue Queensland. Becca's going to be telling us all about the reinstated shooting permits of bats and how there are effective ways to keep bats from destroying crops without shooting them. Let's go into that. You're listening to 4ZZZ. This is Eco Radio. And on the line today, we have Rebecca Appleton. Rebecca is a educator and rescuer with Bat Conservation and Rescue Queensland. Beck, how are you?
Hi, I'm well, thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I brought you, we have talked before in 2022, we did a radiothon special with you about adventurous ears. But today I've brought you on because the government has reinstated the shooting of bats in Queensland. Can you tell us about this?
Yes, so there was a phase out of this practice, which was due to complete mid this year. And unfortunately, just before Christmas, they have put in place a cessation of the rollback. So it will be allowed to continue as it currently stands. This was not done with any consultation with wildlife advocates or voices for the animals. It was done purely with consultation from growers.
Yep.
Which is very disappointing to us. And we weren't made aware of it until after it was sort of done and dusted. It is still sitting before Parliament, so we do have a petition that we have got going there just to try and hope against hope that people might see reason in this. It's a very, very poor outcome, and it's not based on science and it's not based on reality.
Yeah, I wanted to get into the reasons for shooting bats. A spokesperson for the Department of Environment and Tourism Science and Innovation told The Guardian that flying fox damage mitigation permits would remain available to support farmers in protecting commercial crops where all other management options have been exhausted or unavailable. What are the other management options and why are they not successful?
So we'll have a bit of a difference with the department on this because if you have full enclosure netting, then that is the only effective way to stop flying foxes getting to your crops. The places that are still shooting them clearly don't have fully enclosed netting. It's also based around this completely debunked belief that bats send scouts out to find feeding sources and then tell thousands of their closest friends to come and enjoy the food with them. That's not what happens in reality. So claiming that you can shoot a couple of bats and that will stop thousands from coming, it's just a very poor excuse to inhumanely kill animals for no reason. They don't tell thousands of their closest friends where their food source is. In fact, a lot of bats, if they find a good food source, will keep it to themselves very deliberately because, you've got to feed yourself. You've got to stay alive out there. You don't want to share this sort of thing. But unfortunately, this belief in scout bats persists in Queensland, and it is with devastating consequences.
Yeah, I understand that bat roosts are pretty permanent things, even if their area is not viable anymore, they'll still go to the same trees.
So with the roosting behaviour, it's kind of like, I guess sometimes we talk about it like hotels. So up to 20% of a roost is going to be different animals each night. They do move around from roost to roost, but they do have the spots where they go. You do occasionally have a roost that will be empty for a period of time, but generally speaking, they'll come back. But roosting behaviour and feeding behaviour is different as well.
Oh, right.
So they're not going to follow the same sort of pattern when they're looking for safety in numbers and they're looking to all be together and whatever else, which is what they're doing with roosting. It's very different to how they forage and feed.
So if shooting doesn't mitigate crop damage for growers, why are they not adopting to the enclosed netting?
There are some issues with it. Obviously, there is different levels of expense associated with the type of netting that you use. There's also, we have cyclones in Queensland, which can make people hesitant to invest a lot of money in infrastructure, but there are different types of netting that you can go for as well, and some of it is more prone to damage from cyclones than others. I think that at the end of the day, we have to accept that full enclosure netting is the only thing that's going to work, and if you choose not to use full enclosure netting, that shouldn't give you a free pass to uselessly shoot keystone species inhumanely to make you feel better, which is essentially all it's really doing. It's not having an actual effect in terms of crop protection.
Yeah, okay. Well, can we talk about the netting for a moment? We'll get into some specifics. It can't be any type of netting. I understand that about 88 flying foxes were caught in the Noosa Golf Club's nets
Yes.
earlier this week. What kind of netting is appropriate?
So wildlife safe netting is generally very small aperture. If it is, so we say to people in your own backyard, if you can stick your finger through it, it's not wildlife safe. It also comes down to how the netting's used as well, because if you do have larger aperture netting but it is in a frame and it is taut, then that is not going to be as dangerous as if you have wider aperture netting and it's just loosely hanging over a tree. So a lot of the netting that is really good for fruit farms is there's some really sort of small weed stuff that will actually help with insects as well. So you're protecting from flying foxes, birds, insects, the whole lot. Also hail, sun damage. So if you get that sort of netting, then you're protecting from a great deal of things outside of just flying foxes as well. But certainly the most danger for animals comes from your netting that. So when we say large aperture, that's sort of got big holes in between the net. When you're using that stuff and it's hung loosely, that's your highest level of danger for animal entanglement. And it's not just bats, it's snakes and possums and birds and anything.
Yeah, okay. So how can we as a public help with getting flying foxes better protection?
Well, I think one of the best things is to advocate for them publicly and to make your local representatives, particularly at a state level, which is where a lot of this legislation sits, make them aware that you are actually passionate about appropriate treatment for wildlife, and that as a citizen you don't believe in the inhumane shooting of animals for crop protection. We do have a petition as well, which I mentioned, that we would love for people who live in Queensland to sign. For those who don't live in Queensland, if you can send a letter to Andrew Powell, the Queensland Environment Minister, to let him know. We have got the very beginnings of a flying fox advocacy group that we are putting together for the whole of Queensland to engage in working together on this issue. And once that gets a little bit further along, we'll have a few different initiatives that we'll try to run, because unfortunately flying foxes, like a few other key species here, are treated pretty badly when it comes to legislation and acceptable, or what's deemed as acceptable behaviour towards them.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that people can do is just help educate people. Unfortunately, in Queensland, we're often raised with this belief that flying foxes are pests and they are a problem. What people don't understand is that they are a keystone species and they are incredibly important to our native ecosystems. If we lose them, we lose a hell of a lot. They shape the landscape around them. And we really need to be helping people to understand why they're important and how to live with them, and how to adjust our behaviours and that sort of thing as well, rather than just constantly seeing them as a pest that needs to be managed or gotten rid of, because ultimately that will hurt us as well. They are in decline. It's not a good outlook for a lot of animals in this country, flying foxes included.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point about us working with species and the environment instead of bulldozing over what doesn't fit into our niche idea of productivity.
Yeah, exactly. And once you actually get to work with flying foxes, you really do see how intelligent and inquisitive and wonderful they are. And I think a lot of people are just exposed to this idea of them as a problem or a bad thing. So we do what we can to get out there and educate people and show them flying foxes up close and teach them about, what they do for the environment and what's wonderful about them. And I do think that information is starting to spread. We do have a lot more people advocating for them than there was, 20 years ago, which is great.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Rebecca, for being on the show. We would love to talk to you again whenever the advocacy group gets up and running.
Yeah, my pleasure. We'd love to.
All right. That was Rebecca Appleton. She is a educator and rescuer with Bat Conservation and Rescue Queensland. Let's go to a song now. This is Ouroboros with Slaughterline. You're on 4ZZZ. This is Eco Radio.
4ZZZ's Radio Reversal has gone digital. Since 2012, the collective have been building a record of radio theorising, organising, mistake-making, rethinking and community building that happens across this city. So, if 1 hour a week isn't enough for you, head to radioreversal.substack.com to learn more about the Radio Reversal podcast, or listen to the full episodes via your favourite podcasting app.
Welcome back. You're on 4ZZZ. This is Eco Radio, and we just heard then from Maruchi Baramba with their song Manjungi. That is because Maruchi has passed last week. She was a respected Turrbal elder, and sadly died after a battle with cancer. She was an acclaimed songwoman and lawwoman, mezzo-soprano, singer and performer whose work carried culture from Queensland to national and international stages. She has Turrbal and Gubbi Gubbi ancestry ties with bloodline connections to Waka Waka, Gamilaroi, Birragubba nations, and was born in the Cherbourg mission. She is remembered as a cultural leader and as someone whose voice and public work supported Aboriginal rights and cultural recognition. So I'm glad I could play that as a tribute to her life. We are 4ZZZ. We're a community radio station, and we do a lot of amplifying of under amplified voices, I guess. So if you like what we do and you want to be a part of the 4ZZZ family, you can go to 4zzz.org.au/support and become a part of the family there. For as little as $25, but it's not about the money, it's about the warm inner glow you get from being a part of a community that supports community. We did get some texts in from supporters, from members, subscribers. Celestica texted in saying we were talking about the fruit bats, and they said that they were here first, waiting for Mother Nature to fry us. What a loser apex species we are. Yeah, we should be making do no harm provisions when thinking about any sort of development, but unfortunately we develop and then try to mitigate harm afterwards, if we do at all. Marky texted in, said, hope you're both well. We are.
Thank you, Marky.
Thank you, Marky. He said that he's absolutely wrecked on the third run at Eckerben Park along the creek. He has balloon vine mostly gone and a big layer of glycine and daisy. Marky is obviously our in the bush regenerator that gives us an update on what weeds he's pulling out. Yeah, those are three of the big ones there. They just seem to be everywhere nowadays. We appreciate all the work you do, Marky. Thank you very much.
Yes, if we can't be out there pulling weeds out full time, I'm glad you are.
Yeah. I did it for a long time, and I'm glad someone else can take the reins now, because it's a slog. We also got a text in from a non-sub, so we don't have to answer this if we don't want, but they asked, what's the difference between a flying fox and a fruit bat? You got an answer for that, Zack?
I think, so fruit bat is a broader term that includes, like, if fruit bat is a family, or I think it's an order of bat, whereas a flying fox is a subcategory of that order. So all flying foxes are fruit bats, but not all fruit bats are flying foxes. Yeah,
you can have micro bats that live predominantly on fruit or nectar. They would be considered a fruit bat, but not a flying fox.
Absolutely, yeah.
I want to start off, continue on with a heartfelt lament over the passing of a friend of the show, our friend Velvet Crystal Sky Pursue, passed away, and Wavy, a dear friend of theirs, has given us a eulogy and a testimonial. This is what Wavy said. For this beloved and deeply respected member of many Southeast Queensland communities, including music, arts, culture and 4ZZZ, known to innumerable, Wavy entreaties us to care for each other in Velvet's exemplified spirit of warm inner glow that is best brought to life when it is shared. And Wavy has this to share with us now.
In memory of Velvet Crystal Sky Pursue, taken well before her time, unjustly, by the person that she cared for through her disability support work, but for whom she would still have the greatest compassion. Velvet lived her life with joy and in service to others, her children, and my only response I can come up with is to do my best, to be my best, and I beseech others to also do so, as I feel Velvet was one who was connected to the source that brings us all together, humbly doing and acting to bring joy and to living joy. It's the only response I feel that's, well, it's a very strong response to the craziness of our times that lead to someone going crazy and doing an act such as this, where we can come together to care for each other as we strive to find adequate responses and live in ways that are as just as possible, responding to the division that's abounding around us only by drawing each other together as much as we can. Yeah. Thank you, Velvet.
You're listening to Eco Radio, the radio of the future.
You are listening to Eco Radio, the radio of the future. Thank you, small child.
Forgot the end, sorry.
That's all right. We are on 4ZZZ 102.1 FM. If you like what we do here on 4ZZZ, I forgot to mention this before, that our new February prize for subscribers during the month of February, you can go into the winning to win a 3 mixed cases of White Lies beer and a $50 Yeasty Boys pizza voucher from White Lies Brewing all the way down there in 17 Mile Rocks. While you're down there drinking your beers and eating your pizza, you can check out all of my beer-related crushed can art that is been hung by White Lies down in 17 Mile Rock.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, if that's something you're into, head down there and check it all out. I want to finish off with a segment of the show called the Bushcare Roundup. This is where we have collated a selection of environmental and peace volunteering opportunities, things that you can get involved with and get amongst. We have a sting that starts it, and it goes a little something like this.
It's a Bushcare Roundup. They've been pulling out weeds, and then they put in trees. It's a Bushcare Roundup.
happening on Wednesday the 4th. That's today at 6:30 tonight. You can go to the Work That Reconnects Summer Study Action Circle, Coming Back to Life. That's an online event run by New Economy Network Australia. That's something you can get behind. On Saturday the 7th at 7 o'clock in the morning, you can go to the Crosby Road Bushcare Working Bee. That's Crosby Road Park in Ascot. At 8:30, you can go to the Bowie's Flat Bushcare Working Bee. That's Bowie Flat Wetlands in Coorparoo. And at 3 p.m, you can go to the Creeping Inch Plant Working Bee. That's Lochinvar Lane in the Gap.
At 7 a.m. on Sunday the 8th, there is a working bee at Brennan Road in Runcorn. Then at 8 a.m, there is another working bee at the Clarina Street Park Playground in Chapel Hill. From 8 till 10 a.m, there is a Caring for Your Creek working bee at Platypus Park in Mount Crosby. And then from 3:30 till 5:30, there's the Yeronga Bushcare February working bee. That one is at the Anita Street Park in Yeronga.
And that's everything we have for you today. Thanks so much for listening in. Stick around, though, for the coolest cat on radio. Jordan's coming up with Sonic Alien. They're going to be talking to Flamingo Blonde.
Cool.
Very cool. You've been listening to 4ZZZ Eco Radio.
4ZZZ. Eco Radio. Radical Radio Collective.
4ZZZ.